My coworker Lauren Mitchell saw me pulling into the gas station in a luxury car and asked in a voice dripping with envy, "Steve, you really gonna fill up that little tank of yours?" I immediately remembered my father's advice. He always said to keep a low profile. Never show off, never let people know exactly what you have. So I answered casually, "It's my wife's car, she let me borrow it today." Lauren went silent for a few seconds, then smiled, but it was that tight kind of smile that doesn't match the eyes. "Got it," she said, analyzing the car one more time. At that moment, I had no idea that simple answer was about to turn into a nightmare. 3 months later, Lauren showed up at the courthouse with her mother and a lawyer and sued me. I was completely lost when I received the notification. At first, I thought it was some mistake, an absurd error, but it wasn't. She was pregnant and claiming the child was mine. In court, she cried like she was the biggest victim in the world. "He attacked me," she said, holding her already slightly rounded belly. "I went to his house to deliver an important file from work. His wife wasn't there. He saw me, started talking to me, and then forced himself on me." Her mother started crying loudly right after. "My daughter was a good girl," she screamed. "If that man hadn't done this, she wouldn't be pregnant now." I sat there listening to everything. $5 million. That's what she was demanding for emotional damages. $5 million plus half of my assets. With every word she spoke, the room seemed to turn against me. "If they don't take responsibility," Lauren continued, wiping tears that seemed rehearsed, "I'm going to sue them both for marital fraud." Marital fraud? I almost laughed right there, but I controlled myself because there was one thing Lauren didn't know. I had been single for 5 years. Yes, I was married once. But my wife, Rachel Carter, died 5 years ago in a car accident. I organized the funeral. I chose the headstone. I signed the documents. I buried her. When I finally had the chance to speak, I kept my voice calm. "Lauren, are you sure about what you're saying?" She lifted her chin. "I'm absolutely sure, Steve. I tried to resolve this privately out of respect for the 3 years we worked together, but you refused to admit it. Now we're here." Her mother glared at me with hatred that seemed personal. "Your wife didn't even have the courage to show up," she shouted. "A woman who lets her husband do this to an innocent young girl deserves to pay." Some people in the audience started whispering. "Look how calm he is, rich, cold, must be covering for his wife." I took a deep breath. "I think you're confusing things," I said. "Instead of wasting time with me, you should look for whoever actually did this." Lauren turned red. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I'm saying my wife would never do anything like that." Her mother completely lost control. "How can you be so sure? My daughter is young, beautiful. Any woman would lose her head. If she hadn't gone to your house to deliver that file, none of this would have happened." Lauren took advantage of the moment. Her voice became weaker, almost breaking. "Because of her selfish desires, my life is over. I can't get married anymore. And the doctor said if I terminate the pregnancy, I might never be able to have children." She took a deep breath and added, "I'm only asking for $5 million for the pain I'm going through and part of your assets. After all, I'm carrying your wife's child. Your family has money. This won't make a difference to you." That's when I smiled. Not a nervous smile, a calm smile. "So this is about money," I said. She blinked, surprised. "I'm the victim here." "You're accusing me of something impossible to prove," I replied. "Very convenient." Her lawyer whispered something. She then said, "I have proof." A security video was presented. It showed the entrance of a residential building. Lauren appeared at the door. A woman was leaving the building. They talked. The video ended. "You see," she said. "She was leaving the building where you live." I recognized the building, Brighton Hills, an address I had put years ago in an internal company file, an apartment I almost never used, but I remained calm. "Where's the proof of what you claim happened after?" She responded quickly. "I heard her on the phone. She called you that night, called you honey. I heard your voice on the other end. My heart didn't race because I knew the truth." "Describe her," I requested. She gave a strange smile. Stop pretending, Steve. I know who she is. Your wife's name is Rachel Carter. The name echoed in the room. I took a deep breath. Repeat that. Rachel Carter. I looked directly at her. Interesting. The judge stared at me. Sir, do you have anything to declare? I responded without hesitation. I do. I looked at Lauren. Rachel Carter died 5 years ago. Absolute silence. She's buried in Westfield Cemetery. I have the death certificate. If you want, I can present it now. Her mother turned pale. Lauren blinked repeatedly. That's not possible. I tilted my head slightly. Then I'd really like to know who exactly got you pregnant. And that was the moment I saw it. For the first time since everything started, she looked scared. The silence in the room lasted only a few seconds, but it felt much longer. Lauren stood frozen, looking at me as if I had just said something absurd. That's a lie, she said. But her voice no longer had the same firmness. I kept my eyes on her. I buried my wife, organized the funeral, received people at home while she was being waked. Do you really want to continue with this version? The judge called for order, banging his gavel. The court demands clarity. Ms. Mitchell, do you confirm the name of the alleged aggressor? Lauren swallowed hard. Rachel Carter. And you claim she is the defendant's wife? Yes. The judge turned his eyes to me. Mr. Steve Carter, do you confirm that your wife passed away 5 years ago? I confirm. I can present the necessary documentation. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Some of my coworkers who were there as curious spectators began exchanging glances. Lauren's mother stood up again, nervous. This is some kind of manipulation. My daughter wouldn't make something like this up. She saw her, talked to her. She said she was his wife. I took a deep breath. Then perhaps your daughter was deceived. Lauren turned to me, eyes full of tears. I wasn't deceived. I know what happened. I went to your house to deliver that file because you had left it on the desk and needed it for the next day. I got your address and went. She was leaving the building. She asked if I worked with you. Said you weren't home. Told me to wait in the car. She started crying again. As soon as I got in the car, she locked the doors. I fought. Then she said she would see me more often, that I could be her little secret. Some people in the audience gasped in shock. I said no, she continued. But she started stalking me. She would wait for me near the office. She forced me to go to a hotel with her several times. Said she had photos of me and would share them with everyone if I didn't obey. I felt the stares burning into me. And then I found out I was pregnant. I went after her. She blocked me. Pretended she didn't know me. What did you want me to do? She stared at me as if I were responsible for everything. The judge turned to me. Do you wish to respond? I adjusted my hands on the table. Yes. I looked directly at Lauren. If this woman were really my wife, why would she ask you to wait in the car? Why wouldn't she invite you into the apartment? She hesitated for a second. How would I know? Maybe she already had other intentions. And you got into the car of a married woman you had just met in front of the building where her husband supposedly lives? She was silent for a moment. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered something in her ear. I trusted her because she seemed respectable, she answered. She said she needed to talk. I shook my head slightly. You're telling a serious story, Lauren. But so far you've only presented a video of a woman with her back turned leaving a building. That proves nothing. She raised her voice. I have more. I heard her call you. She called you honey. It was your voice on the other end. I remained calm. Can you describe any specific mark on her? Any scar? Any physical detail? She looked at me with irritation. You're trying to confuse me. I'm trying to understand how a woman who's been dead for 5 years managed to get you pregnant. The room went silent again. That's when I noticed something different on her face. It wasn't just fear, it was doubt, as if for the first time a small part of her was wondering if something wasn't right. The judge interrupted. Given the severity of the accusation and the information presented about the death of Mrs. Rachel Carter, this court requests the immediate presentation of the death certificate and orders an investigation into the identity of the alleged aggressor. Lauren stood still. Her mother held her purse tightly, as if she was about to lose her balance. But Lauren still tried to maintain her posture. "I know what I saw," she said, almost whispering. "She told me her name was Rachel Carter. She knew things about you, about your work, about your life. That made my stomach tighten for the first time. She knew things about me. I never talked much about my personal life at work. I was always reserved, even more so after Rachel died. So how would someone know enough details to convince Lauren? Either she was lying very well, or someone really was using my wife's name." I stood up slowly. "If someone used my wife's name, then we're dealing with something very different from what you're trying to paint here." Lauren stared at me, eyes watery. "I didn't make this up for money." I kept my gaze firm. "Then why $5 million? Exactly." She didn't respond. The judge announced a 20-minute break. People began to stand up, commenting in low voices. Some looked at me with suspicion, others already seemed less convinced of her story. While I organized my papers, I felt someone approaching. It was Lauren. She stopped beside me and spoke low enough that no one else could hear. "If you admit everything now, I'll withdraw part of the compensation." I slowly turned my face toward her. "Admit what?" She stared at me, eyes red but cold. "That your wife is alive. That you lied about her death." My heart beat hard for the first time that day. Not from fear, but because I realized something. Lauren wasn't just accusing. She really believed Rachel was alive. And at that moment, I didn't know what was worse. If she was lying, or if someone had made her believe it. I stood there looking at Lauren after she said that. "That you lied about her death." The way she spoke didn't seem like a threat, it seemed like conviction. "You're saying my wife is alive?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "I talked to her," she answered. "She knew things only someone very close would know. She knew you hate white wine. She knew you don't wear your wedding ring since the accident because you can't stand looking at the mark on your finger." My stomach sank. I really hadn't worn my ring since the day of the funeral, and almost no one at work knew that. "She also knew you have a safe in your living room," she continued. "Said you keep old documents there." That made me freeze. I had never mentioned the safe to anyone at the company. "You're making up details to seem convincing," I said, but my voice was no longer as firm. Lauren shook her head. "I didn't need to make anything up. She told me about you too. Said the marriage had been over for years, that you only maintained the image because it was convenient." I felt something different there. It wasn't fear of the accusation, it was anger. "You really believe this?" I asked. She hesitated for a second. It was quick, but I saw it. "She showed me photos," she murmured. "Photos inside your house." My hands went cold. "What photos?" "Of the living room, the stairs, your bedroom." I didn't say anything because for the first time I was trying to remember if anyone could have access to that house. After Rachel's death, I changed the locks, installed a security system, kept my distance from almost everyone. I had spent 5 years trying to rebuild my life, and now a coworker was saying she had seen photos of my house taken recently. The judge called everyone back to the room. Lauren went back to her place. I went to mine. The session resumed. "Ms. Mitchell," the judge said, "do you claim that you maintained contact with the alleged aggressor after the incident?" "Yes," she answered. "She would send me messages, tell me to stay calm, say she would resolve everything." "Do you have these messages?" She looked at her lawyer. "She deleted them afterward." A murmur crossed the room. I took a deep breath. "Convenient," I said. Lauren stared at me. "She said you would never believe me, that you always managed to control everything." That hit me in a strange way. Rachel used to say something similar when we argued, that I needed to have control of everything. But that didn't mean anything. They were common phrases. Or were they? The judge turned to me. "Mr. Carter, do you wish to add anything?" I stood up. "Yes. I want to request a DNA test as soon as the child is born. If there's any possibility that someone is using my deceased wife's name, I also want to know." Lauren went rigid. "You're saying it's not hers?" "I'm saying it's biologically impossible." She pressed her belly with both hands. The doctor confirmed the pregnancy. "I'm almost 4 months along." "That doesn't answer the question," I said. The judge noted something. "The court accepts the DNA test request when possible. Meanwhile, an investigation will be opened into the identity of the woman cited." Lauren seemed divided between indignation and insecurity. Then she did something unexpected. "Can I identify her again?" she said, looking at the judge. "If she appears in front of me, I'll recognize her." My heart gave an involuntary jump, because until that moment I was convinced everything was made up. But if she really believed, or worse, if there really was someone. The judge ended the session for that day. As soon as I left the courthouse, I felt the stares on me, some full of judgment, others of curiosity. I maintained my posture until I got into my car. Only when I closed the door did I let the air out of my lungs. I grabbed my phone, opened the security cameras for my house. All the images seemed normal. Empty living room, empty kitchen, empty hallways. But when I advanced to the recordings from the previous night, something made my blood run cold. At 2:17 a.m., a shadow crossed the hallway on the second floor. It wasn't clear, it was fast, but it definitely wasn't me. I was alone in the house. I had always been alone. My hand started to tremble. I enlarged the image. The person had their back turned, and for one very brief second, the shape of the body, the way of walking, was the same as Rachel. I turned off my phone immediately. I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel. Rachel was dead. I saw the body. I identified her. I buried her. So why did that silhouette look so much like her? My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I hesitated but answered. Silence. Then a female voice, low, controlled. "You should have accepted the deal." My heart raced. "Who is this?" Small pause. "You know who I am." The call dropped. I stayed there frozen, feeling something I hadn't felt in 5 years. It wasn't sadness, it wasn't nostalgia, it was fear. And for the first time since Lauren sued me, I started to consider the possibility that this story wasn't just about money. I stayed holding my phone for a few seconds after the call dropped. "You know who I am." The voice wasn't identical to Rachel's, but it also wasn't completely different. That was what scared me most. I went home trying to act normally, but every noise seemed too loud. Every shadow seemed bigger than it should be. As soon as I entered, I locked the door and went straight to my office. I opened the security cameras again. I rewatched the recording from 2:17. The silhouette crossed the hallway slowly, stopped near my bedroom door, then left the frame. No door was broken into, no alarm went off. It was as if that person had legitimate access to the house. My stomach turned. I called the company that installed the security system years ago. I asked them to check if there had been any remote access or failure. They said everything was normal. Normal. Nothing seemed normal. The next day, news of the lawsuit was already circulating throughout the entire company. Sideways glances, conversations interrupted when I walked by. Lauren didn't show up for work. In the middle of the morning, I received a message from her. She called me again. My heart raced. I responded only, "What did she say?" A few minutes later, she said, "You're starting to doubt." I stared at the screen. I hadn't told anyone about the recording, hadn't told anyone about the call. How would someone know I was starting to doubt? I responded, "Are you lying?" She typed for a few seconds before sending the next message. She said she's going to prove she's alive. My chest tightened. I left work early that day. When I got home, I went straight to the safe she mentioned in court. It was behind a painting in the living room. Very few people knew about it. I opened it. Inside were old documents, Rachel's death certificate, some photos of us, insurance papers, things I never had the courage to throw away. Everything seemed intact. But when I started looking more carefully, I noticed something strange. One of the envelopes was out of order. Small detail, almost insignificant, but I was too organized to ignore it. I took out all the documents and checked them one by one. Nothing missing, nothing torn, nothing apparently altered. But someone had touched them, I was sure. My phone vibrated again, unknown number. This time I received a photo. It was my house seen from outside, taken at that moment. My hands started to sweat. Right after, another message. Open the door. My heart almost jumped out of my mouth. I stood frozen in the middle of the living room. I looked at the door. Silence. Then 3 knocks. Slow, firm. I didn't move. 3 more knocks. Steve. The voice called from the other side. We need to talk. I felt my entire body freeze. That voice. I knew that voice. I walked to the door with slow steps, every muscle tense. I looked through the peephole. A woman was standing there, head slightly lowered. When she lifted her face toward the camera, my breath disappeared. The same face shape, the same haircut, the same way of tilting her chin. Rachel. Or someone absurdly similar to her. She spoke again. I know you're there. My legs went weak, but one thing caught my attention. Rachel had a small scar near her right eyebrow, the result of a bike fall in her teens. The woman at my door didn't have it. The skin was smooth, too perfect. I stepped away from the door without making noise. I grabbed my phone and called the police. While I explained the situation, I heard footsteps moving away. I ran to the window. I saw the woman getting into a black car parked across the street. She didn't seem rushed. She seemed calm, as if she knew this was just the beginning. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I explained everything. I showed them the recordings. They said they would investigate, but I saw in the officer's eyes that he didn't know if he was dealing with a crime or someone emotionally shaken. The next day, in court, Lauren looked different. Less confident, more nervous. As soon as the session began, her lawyer asked to speak. Your Honor, my client wishes to add information. The judge nodded. Lauren took a deep breath. She showed up at his house yesterday. The entire room turned to me. My heart beat hard. How do you know that? I asked. She went pale. Because she messaged me after. She said you almost opened the door. The silence was immediate. I felt something change inside me. Until that moment, I still considered the possibility that Lauren was making everything up for money. But that meant whoever was watching me was also talking to her. Or she was much more involved than she appeared. I stood up slowly. So you're admitting you maintain contact with this woman? She hesitated. She contacts me. And you respond? She didn't deny it. The judge watched us both with heightened attention. I took a deep breath. If this woman is alive, I said slowly, then someone faked a death. And that's not a small problem. Lauren stared at me, eyes full of something I still couldn't identify. Guilt, fear, or regret. Then she said something that changed everything. She told me something only you two would know. My stomach tightened. What? She swallowed hard. That on the night of the accident, you weren't home. The air seemed to disappear from the room, because that was true. And I had never told that to anyone. For a few seconds, no one breathed. On the night of the accident, you weren't home. I felt the blood drain from my face. Repeat that. I said slowly. Lauren swallowed hard. She said that night you two argued, that you left, that when the accident happened, you weren't by her side. The judge watched me carefully. I had no choice. That's true, I said. A murmur ran through the room. I continued. We argued that night. It was the last time I talked to her. My voice didn't tremble, but inside something was squeezing. She got in the car. Hours later, the police knocked on my door. Lauren stared at me as if she had just won some advantage. So you admit you don't know exactly what happened after she left? I felt anger. I know she died. I identified the body. She took a step forward. But did you see her face calmly, or were you in shock? That hit me. I remembered that day like a blur. Bright lights. Hospital. A doctor speaking too slowly. A white sheet. I had confirmed by the wedding ring, by the scar on her left hand, by the documents. But the face. I closed my eyes for a second. No, I couldn't let that enter my head. You're trying to create doubt where none exists, I said more firmly. The body was officially identified. Lauren shook her head. She showed me a recent photo. She said she needed to disappear because someone wanted to hurt you. Silence returned. And you believed her? I asked. She hesitated. At first I didn't know what to think, but she knew too many details. She spoke about you with intimacy. I felt a strange weight in my chest. What kind of details? Lauren took a deep breath. She said you blame yourself for the accident. That you think if you hadn't argued with her, she wouldn't have left driving upset. My heart stopped. I had never said that out loud. Never. It was something I had carried alone for 5 years. I kept my expression neutral, but inside something was crumbling. Guilt is common when someone loses their spouse, I replied. That doesn't prove anything. Lauren was silent for a few seconds, then said something that completely changed the direction of the situation. She also said you received an anonymous call 2 days before the accident. My body went rigid. I did receive a strange call. A man saying Rachel was getting into something she shouldn't. I never told anyone, not the police, not my family. I ignored it at the time. Thought it was a bad joke. Who told you that? I asked, feeling my heart beat hard. Her, Lauren answered. She said you never took that call seriously. My hands started to sweat. This couldn't be coincidence. Either Lauren had done an absurd investigation into my life, or someone really had access to things that shouldn't be available. The judge interrupted. Ms. Mitchell, do you possess any concrete proof beyond verbal accounts? She hesitated. I have a recording. The entire room reacted. My stomach sank. What kind of recording? The judge asked. Lauren grabbed her phone with trembling hands. A call. She called me 2 nights ago. She pressed play. The voice echoed through the room, and it wasn't a distorted voice. It was clear, feminine, controlled. You're complicating things, the voice said. It was supposed to be simple. He would pay and this would be over. My heart raced. I knew that tone, but it wasn't identical to Rachel's. It was similar. Frighteningly similar. The recording continued. Don't push too hard. He starts to doubt when he feels he's losing control. The recording ended. The judge was silent for a few seconds. Mr. Carter, he said, does this voice belong to your late wife? I took a deep breath. The entire room watched me. No, I replied. Lauren widened her eyes. You're lying. It's not her voice, I repeated. It's similar, but it's not hers. And at that moment I was certain of something. Whoever was behind this wasn't trying to prove Rachel was alive. They were trying to destabilize me. Use my memories, my guilt, my insecurities. And Lauren was part of it. Whether by choice or manipulation, I still didn't know. But one thing became clear at that instant. This wasn't just an extortion attempt. It was something personal. And someone wanted to make me doubt my own story. After I said that wasn't my wife's voice, I felt something change in the room. It wasn't relief, it was uncertainty. Lauren stared at me as if I had betrayed a secret only we two knew. You're lying, she repeated, but this time her voice came out weak. I'm not, I replied. I was married to Rachel for 8 years. I know her voice. The judge asked for silence again. Ms. Mitchell, this recording does not prove identity. The court needs something concrete. Lauren seemed lost for a second. It was the first time I saw her truly disoriented. It wasn't the tearful acting from before, it was confusion. I started putting the pieces together. Lauren, I said calmly, when was the first time she contacted you? She took time to answer. 2 weeks before I found out about the pregnancy. Did she talk to you in person first or by message? Message. From what number? She looked at her lawyer. Unknown number. And you simply believed it was my wife? She got irritated. She knew too much. Like what? She took a deep breath. She knew you don't trust anyone, that you keep your distance at work, that you always pay for coffee but never accept invitations to go out. That wasn't a secret. Anyone from the office would know that. I moved a little closer to the table. Did she ever appear in front of you in broad daylight in a public place? She hesitated. Not exactly. So every time you saw her, it was at night? Silence. Yes. The judge noted everything. I felt something finally turning. Lauren, you had asked me several times about my wife, I continued. You always wanted to know what she was like, what she did, where we lived. She went rigid. That doesn't mean anything. It means you were curious. She looked away. I just thought it was strange that you were married and never talked about her. I took a deep breath. I didn't talk because she died. The room went silent again. Lauren started crying again, but now it seemed different. I didn't make this up, she murmured. I didn't make up the pregnancy. The judge intervened. Ms. Mitchell, the pregnancy will be confirmed by official medical exams ordered by this court. She became nervous. I took advantage of the moment. If you really believe this woman is Rachel, then you're also a victim of someone. She slowly raised her eyes. What do you mean? I mean someone may be using my wife's name to get close to you. She seemed to divide between accepting this idea or completely rejecting it. Why would they do that? She asked. That was the right question. I thought about the anonymous call before the accident. I thought about the shadow in the hallway. I thought about the photo of my house taken from outside. Maybe because someone wants money, I said. Her lawyer shifted in his chair. Are you insinuating that my client is being used? I'm saying this story is too big to be just a coworker asking for $5 million. Lauren stayed silent. The judge suspended the session again, scheduling a new hearing for a week later. When I left the courthouse, Lauren came after me in the parking lot. Steve, she called. I stopped but kept my distance. What is it? She seemed smaller, less confident. What if you're right? About what? What if someone is using her name? I observed her carefully. Then you need to tell me everything without hiding anything. She hesitated. She sent me an address, she said. She said it was an apartment you two used sometimes. My heart tightened. What address? She said the name of the building. Brighton Heights. The same building from the video. The apartment I almost never visited. She said it was 302, she added. I stayed silent because that apartment had been closed for years. I almost never went there, but someone knew about it, and someone was using that place. I stared at Lauren. Did you go there after? She nodded slowly. Once. She took a deep breath. She didn't show up, but there was a light on. My pulse quickened. Lauren, do you still have the key? She looked at me surprised. She gave me a copy. My heart raced. If that was true, someone had access to my old apartment, and maybe to my house too. I slowly opened my car door. We're going there now. She looked at me scared. No. If you want to prove you're not lying, come with me. She stood frozen for a few seconds, then nodded. And for the first time since everything started, I felt that maybe we weren't on opposite sides, but that we were being pulled by the same invisible hand. And I needed to find out who it was. The drive to Brighton Heights was silent. Lauren was in the passenger seat, holding her purse tightly. I kept my eyes on the road, but my mind was racing. If someone was using that apartment, for how long? I almost never went there. I kept it just for practical reasons. An old address, forgotten. She sent me the key by mail, Lauren said suddenly. In an envelope with no return address. And you didn't find that strange? I was already too involved. That said a lot. When we arrived, the building looked exactly as always. Silent, organized, too normal for something that was messing up my entire life. We entered through the lobby. The doorman wasn't there. It was early evening. We went up to the third floor, apartment 302. Lauren took the key from her purse. Her hands were trembling. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Open it." She inserted the key. It worked. My heart raced. The door opened slowly. The apartment was clean, organized, air circulating as if someone had been there recently. I entered first. The living room was tidy. Sofa in place, curtains closed. But there was something different. On the coffee table, a glass of water, half full. Fresh. I touched it. Still cold. Someone had left there shortly before. Lauren covered her mouth. She was here. I walked to the bedroom. The bed was made, but when I opened the wardrobe, I felt my stomach turn. There were women's clothes hanging, new, Rachel's size. Or rather, the size of the woman who had been at my door. "This isn't possible," Lauren murmured. I closed the closet hard. "She wants us to see this." I started looking more carefully. On the living room wall there was a small nail recently placed, as if something had been hung there and then removed. I went to the kitchen. In the sink, a plate washed but still wet. Lauren started breathing too fast. "She said you two used this place when you fought." I turned to her. "We never used this apartment for that." She stared at me confused. But she described the couch, the furniture arrangement. "This has been the same for years." She went silent. I started to realize something. "Lauren, did you tell anyone you were coming here with me today?" She widened her eyes. "No, no one." My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. Silence for 2 seconds. Then the voice. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Lauren froze. "Are you watching us?" I asked. "I always have been." I looked around automatically. Cameras. She could have installed cameras. "What do you want?" I asked. "You know what I want. Money." She laughed softly. "If it were money, I would have already resolved this." My heart raced. "Then what is it?" Small pause. "I want you to stop looking." The call dropped. Lauren started crying. I didn't know it was like this. I thought she liked me. I felt something strange. For the first time, I believed her. "She manipulated you," I said. "Used you to get to me." She looked at me. "Get to you for what?" That was the question. And I started to remember the call before the accident, Rachel's vague mention that she had a problem at work but would resolve it. I never insisted, never wanted to know. Maybe I should have insisted. I went to the apartment balcony, looked at the street. A black car was parked on the other side. Engine running, dark windows. My heart almost jumped out of my mouth. "Lauren," I said quietly. "Don't look now, but I think she's outside." She stood still. "What do we do?" I took a deep breath. I couldn't panic. "We leave through the back." She followed me to the kitchen, where there was a service door leading to the stairs. We went down fast. When we reached the ground floor, we exited through a side door. I looked discreetly toward the front of the building. The black car was still there, but now the driver's door was open and the seat was empty. My heart started beating faster. She could be inside the building. Or behind us. Lauren grabbed my arm. "Steve." I turned slowly. At the end of the sidewalk, a few meters away, a woman stood in a dark suit. Calm posture. She made no move to approach, just stood there watching. Even at a distance, I recognized the same face, the same shape. But when she stepped into the light of the street lamp, I saw the scar. Not on the eyebrow, but behind her right ear. A thin line like a surgery mark. She tilted her head slightly, like Rachel used to do when she wanted to provoke me, and then said loud enough for me to hear, "You were always smarter than I remembered." My entire body went rigid, because at that moment I was certain of one thing. That woman was not my wife. But she knew exactly how to hit me. I felt Lauren trembling beside me. The woman didn't run, didn't advance, didn't seem to be in a hurry. That was what scared me most. She was calm. Like someone who knows they're in control. "Let's get in the car," I said quietly. "She's looking at us," Lauren whispered. "I know." We walked to my car, trying to maintain a normal pace. I didn't want to show fear, Didn't want to give her that satisfaction. When I got in and started the engine, I looked in the rearview mirror. She was still standing there. Then she raised her phone to her ear. My phone vibrated at the same instant. I put it on speaker. "You're persistent," she said. "Who are you?" I asked. "Does that really matter?" "It matters. Do you know why all this started?" My heart tightened. "No, I don't." She was silent for a second. "Your wife owed money." Lauren immediately turned her face to me. "That's a lie," I said. "No, it's not. She made bad choices. Got involved in something bigger than she could control. I remembered the anonymous call before the accident. She's getting into something she shouldn't." My throat went dry. "What kind of thing?" "Enough to put you at risk." Lauren seemed confused. "Then why involve her?" she asked, pointing to herself. She answered without hesitation. "Because you were easy." Lauren went silent, visibly hit. "And because I needed Steve to believe the past wasn't buried." I gripped the steering wheel tightly. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to stop messing with what you don't understand." "I'm not messing with anything." She laughed softly. "You went to the apartment today." My stomach sank. "How do you know?" "Because I wanted you to go." I felt a chill. So all of this, the pregnancy, the lawsuit, was a way to get my attention? Lauren turned to the phone. "You said you liked me." I said what I needed to say. She went silent, eyes full of tears. I took a deep breath. If my wife owed something, collect from her, not from me. The response came cold. "She died." The world seemed to stop for a second. "So you admit she's dead?" I said. "She always was." My heart raced. "Then why all this?" "Because before she died, she left something in your name." I felt the air get heavy inside the car. "What?" "Protection." The word echoed in my head. Protection. She thought you needed to be safe. That if something happened to her, you would have access. Lauren looked at me lost. Access to what? Something worth more than $5 million. I closed my eyes for a second. Rachel was always reserved when it came to work. She said she resolved things alone. Maybe I never wanted to know too much. "I don't have anything," I said. "Yes, you do," she replied. "And if you don't hand it over voluntarily, other people will come looking in a less polite way." My body went tense. "What other people?" She ignored the question. "Stop investigating. Withdraw the complaint against Lauren and forget the apartment." "And if I don't do that?" Silence. Then she said with terrifying calm, "Then the next scare won't just be a visit at the door." The call dropped. Lauren started crying for real this time. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I believed her. Because the fear on her face wasn't fake, it was real. I started the car and drove away. I drove aimlessly for a few minutes until I finally stopped in a lit parking lot. My mind was spinning. If Rachel owed money, if she had gotten involved with the wrong people, if she left something in my name, then maybe I never completely knew the woman I was married to. Lauren wiped her tears. "What do we do now?" I stayed silent. I could ignore it, could pay whatever they asked, could try to disappear. But one thing became clear at that moment. Someone was using fear to control me. And I had already spent 5 years living with guilt. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life living with threats. I looked at Lauren. "Are you willing to tell everything that happened without hiding anything?" She nodded immediately. "Yes." "Then we're not going to run anymore." I started the car again. "We're going to find out what she thinks I have." And for the first time since everything started, I felt something different from fear. I felt anger. And anger, when it's clear, becomes decision. I spent the entire night without sleeping. Lauren stayed in the guest room. I locked all the doors, reviewed the security system, and sat in the kitchen with Rachel's old papers spread across the table. If she owed money, I needed to know to whom. I started looking at old statements, stored contracts, anything that could indicate something out of the ordinary. Rachel was always discreet. She worked a lot, said little about business. I trusted her. Maybe I trusted too much. Around 3 a.m., I found something I had never noticed. An old rental receipt. Brighton Heights, apartment 302. The contract was in her name. I felt a strange weight in my chest. I always thought that apartment was just in my company file, but no. Rachel had rented that place months before the accident and never told me. I closed my eyes for a moment. What were you hiding from me? I murmured to myself. In the morning, Lauren entered the kitchen with her face swollen from crying. Did you find anything? I showed her the contract. Her eyes widened. So she really used that place? Yes, but not with me. The silence between us was heavy. Lauren sat down slowly. She told me you didn't understand certain decisions of hers. I looked up. What decisions? That sometimes it was better for you not to know everything. I took a deep breath. That was exactly something Rachel would say, but it was also an easy phrase to make up. My phone vibrated again. Unknown number. This time just a message. Did you find it yet? My heart raced. She knew I had found the contract. That meant one thing. Someone was monitoring my phone. I stood up immediately. Get your things. We're leaving. Lauren asked nervously. Where to? Somewhere she won't expect. I drove to my father's house. I didn't want to involve him, but I needed a place outside my routine. On the way, I turned off my phone. Lauren did the same. When we arrived, I explained everything to my father. He was silent for a long time. I never fully trusted that girl, he finally said. My heart tightened. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because you loved her. Lauren watched us in silence. My father continued. She came to me once, a few months before the accident. Asked for help to resolve a financial problem. Didn't want to give details. My stomach sank. What kind of problem? She said she had made a bad investment, that she was being pressured. Pressured by whom? She didn't say. I sat down slowly. Everything was falling into place. The hidden apartment. The anonymous call. The woman who was now threatening me. Lauren took a deep breath. She told me she needed money to resolve something old. I looked at her quickly. When did she say that? The second time she met me.